grow, Morgan. You must come with me. I'm very sorry about your father. I'll have someone pick him up and bring him along.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to the 11th episode of the Medieval Rimworld series. I'm excited to welcome you all back today. Hopefully today things will cool down and calm down a little bit after last episode, which was extremely action-packed. A quick announcement, we're not quite there yet, but we are working towards 1,000 subs. When that happens, I think I'm going to start up a little Discord just for the community, now that there is a bit of a community around the channel, rather than just, a few people watching. But without further ado, today we are going to get started by working on the hull, building a small extension on the crafting room at the back so we can crank up our stone cutting production and increase our storage. During our building of this expansion, we finished off our gunpowder study, which was a product of the schematics we got from last episode. This was also the case for the Arbalest research, as well as one of the other body researches we have. I should mention while we're on the research screen that I will plan to finish off all the basic weapons research today, as it's a little weird that we can craft these arcane weapons without the basic weapons researched. It was also now time for the hatching of Kryos' egg. Having been warm and safe in our magic room, finally out burst a baby white dragon with some slightly different features to his mother. He didn't have anywhere to sleep, but he decided it would be nice and cozy in the middle of the hole. He looks really cute, and I'm sure everybody's happy to have another baby in the colony. But just as we celebrate this birth, we will also look at death, that being the death of the raiders and their dead bodies, which are specifically being cremated by Ahsoka to help clean out the front of the base. And regarding the front of the base, we have finished off a large section of the front wall, which I think looks really good. We're going to see if we can get that finished off in today's episode. I'm also quite thankful that the only people or animals trying to come through this front wall at the moment is the rocks carrying items from our scavenging outpost. And oh look, this rock says a frenzy orb on it, which I thought looked really cool. I believe this is the equivalent of one of the base game pulses that causes all the animals in an area to go manhunting. I'm sure we'll find a use for this somehow. I was also pleasantly surprised when I found another dragon egg from Kryos, so soon after her first baby as well. I'm assuming the Ice Maw is the father of this one, but we're going to go ahead and build a proper incubator for this, which we can hopefully move into a proper dragon's den sometime in the near future. The Law would grab it and throw it in the incubator, which will help it to grow a bit faster. Just like Dux, who has grown up very fast as well, now becoming an adult, gaining passions in melee, plants, and social, as well as the resilient trait, rounding out a great fighter and overall colonist, who we would equip with some light melee fighter armor, as well as this masterwork warhammer that he wields quite nicely, I must say. And he will indeed have a chance to wield it, as we have the biggest raid I've seen all series coming in, with what must be 30 plus raiders. They begun battering the wolves while I had my colonists rushing as fast as possible up to the north to the defensive towers to defend this onslaught. Our ranged characters began shooting at the enemies, although some of them were lassoed out and were getting taken down. I regret what I was saying about Ernest and his spirit wolves in the last episode getting boring. I take it back after this. Give me smaller raids again. The spirit wolves were absolutely necessary here, as well as the dragons who shot fireballs and did some melee attacking. Our armor too really held up with our melee characters as they had begun rushing in and were doing damage, forcing our enemies to retreat. We would of course begin tending to our wounded and capture several of the raiders. Thankfully we were able to get through this battle with only losing one of Ernest's bears. Now I celebrated this battle with a sigh of relief, but Ryo went a different way, deciding to have a battlefield beer. What a way to celebrate. But moving on, we will also be celebrating Carson becoming an adult now, where he gained some passions in artistic, shooting, animals, and the fast learner trait, which I'm sure will help him pick up skills very quickly. Robert would also have a growth moment gaining skills in shooting, medical, and intellectual, with the easily amused trait as well. I'd like to mold him into more of a fighting character. I would also stop the game from calling him the ridiculous name Steroid. I may have said that I don't like the name Robert last episode, but Steroid is just so much worse. But onto another thing that I have spoken about in previous episodes, that being the Garan one, which I'm finally showing some more love to, getting a couple of new shrines built and planting a new seed for a second tree that we would once again bond with Edmund. He's sort of becoming our Dryad Master / Duranlan Caretaker. That being said, I might move the Grove into a better position, perhaps somewhere more defensive, as the Thorncasters were really showing off how big they are for defense, annihilating a few rocks that went Manhunter a bit later. Oh, and we would also finally get some different types of Dryads, that being the Stone Digger Dryads, which I chose for this new tree. These guys will actually do mining for us, which will come in very useful as we're going to be mining out a part of the mountain today or in the next episode for a new prism. I would also go back a little bit later and swap the Carrier Dryads, which weren't that helpful, for some Medicine Makers. They will take a little bit of time to spawn in, as the Carrier Dryads need to go into a little cocoon to become Medicine Makers. Now, with Carlson being an adult and having such a good passion for artistic, I would get Nart benched down and have him begin constructing some skeleton statues to give him some good practice in this particular skill. But he will have to wait, as we may all die in the elemental assault that's happening at the moment, with their first target being our baby dragon, who was luckily saved by Ernest and his spirit wolves. We would assemble around this strange rift, having our ranged characters begin attacking from a distance, as we don't know what this portal is, and because I know that they blow up when they're destroyed. More elementals would come through, but they weren't so much of an issue, as All About people would just dogpile them and take them out pretty quickly. I feel like I remember these being much tougher to fight last time I played. We would destroy the rift, gaining some valuable resources as well as some interesting gems. Those being a minor arcane gem of regeneration, which can help with mana regeneration when crafted into an item, a minor arcane gem of holding, which can assist fighters or mages with energy during battle, and a minor arcane gem of learning, which assists with XP gain. We will definitely put these to some use surely. Around this time we would also get a dust wand, which I think does absolutely nothing, and a legendary harp from our scavenging outpost. Very interesting. As a quick note here, I took some time and tamed this griffin with Chalcedon, which he's now riding in a very strange way. Basically, we knocked it out, downed it, rescued it, and it decided to tame to us. I was a bit silly not recording it, that's my bad, just thought I'd let you guys know. But next up, we would get our ranged characters some Arablests. So I decided to get a proper fueled forge going in the workshop, having one of our characters craft it, only to realize that these bows are actually created on the workbench, which we already have. And while the focus is on our colonists and working on them, we would also set up some surgeries for Edmund and Kiko to give them artificial limbs or body parts, like the eye and ear that Edmund got installed, just to improve their ability to work and fight. And of course, every time I decide to mention fighting, we get into one, this time with the tribe of Chol, who are attacking in the south with another massive raid. I will once again retract what I said last episode about fights getting a little bit boring. The Spirit Wolves weren't able to do much against this massive raiding force. Their army would press in, and we were going to have to engage them in melee combat. Danders and our dragons would be the first one in, with a couple of other melee characters following behind, while the rest of our reinforcements would come in from the north. Eventually, with more members here and the dragons' fireball attacks, we would damage the enemies enough to have them decide to flee, giving us a good chance to heal our people. And I have to say, we finished this battle right in time, as several people were really badly hurt. The most of all being Nia, who nearly bled out in her bedroom, and she would have if it wasn't for Ahsoka coming and tending to her. Once everybody was healed from this defense, we decided we would go out and attack. Not any of our enemies, but an unhold lair that was discovered nearby. This was by chance as well, not actually by us searching. And after a quick journey, it appears that we have arrived at a huge nest made up of bones of the Unhold's prey. These troll-like creatures are some of the toughest in the medieval overhaul, so we're going to try and bait them out one by one. I think in trying to bait them out though, we got a little bit too close and a couple of them began to advance on us, so we decided to begin retreating. When we got back a bit, the dragons would go in to begin the battle for us. These creatures do so much damage, so by the time the first one had begun retreating, we would instantly have our people begin tending to anybody that was hit. I think we came really close to losing someone here, so I'm glad we got through it. Just as we finished tending, the one that had fled had decided to come back in, surprising me. Thankfully the dragons were there to finish it off, with a little help from our Sapphire warriors, that is. We would spend the rest of the day healing up, but our Naiad Danders would take Icemore and Cryos to finish the job, killing the final beasts and picking up the bloody letter left in their nest. On the way back home, we would read this letter that said, "To the Count, Your dear Majesty, we are progressing, even though somewhat slowly. The witch requires more silver for the materials, but the first steps are done." She talked to them. "The Youngholds are scaring me. They could break me with a single swipe of their arm. How is she not scared? How can she just talk to them? I suggest you approve her request for silver. I know I am but a servant, and it's a lot of silver, but this could win us the war. This could make you an empress, even. It's a bit chilling, and I think this may perhaps be part of a grander story, but until we find more, there's really no way of telling. Perhaps the scholar caravan that has shown up in our village while we're gone may provide some more clues, or maybe they'll just provide us with some new schematics in exchange for the ones that we sold them that we'd already used. When our caravan had finally arrived home, we would have Ryo craft something from the Unhold fur that would suit him in particular, that being a fur cloak, which we would colour to fit our ideology. I would love to get some more of these for everybody, but Unholds are pretty difficult to kill, so that may take a little bit of time. I think Ryo looks fantastic in this though. And to celebrate, I thought it would be cool to send Ryo out with his Moo gear, as well as Valor, Edmund, Danders and Ducks, on a bit of a boys' trip I guess, to this snake-infested ruin from the Below quest. When the group arrived, we realised the ruin was inside a mountain, and upon getting closer saw that it had some thick stone doors which Danders and Ducks would begin to attempt to breach, only for one of the bandits inside to begin coming out, prompting Cryos and Ducks to attack when another bandit appeared. Danders would lasso him, cutting his head clean from his shoulders before running over to assist the others with the first. When they were defeated, they would enter, coming into a large room. Cryos would begin trying to clear rubble ahead while the others slept, revealing another large room further in. Just as the first light of morning appeared, another bandit would appear. Cryos thankfully finished him off, without waking anybody up, I might add. But when everybody was awake, Ryo would begin clearing the entrance to the next corridor, which revealed another door that he would break into. Inside he found another scavenger which he swiftly executed, securing another section of the ruin, and finding some loot and survival meals. I was having Valor put down a hoopstone ring for some recreation, as we may be here for a while exploring, when two more people appeared, causing a fight in the front room, where 3 bodies were added to the pile. We would open up a couple of side rooms, finding a place to rest and recover, as well as an armory that Edmund would loot for some resources and nice weapons that we'll be sure to bring back home with us. But with all that, we're going to wrap it up for today's episode. Sorry to leave you guys on a bit of a cliffhanger. If I went through this entire ruin, this video would probably be nearly 30 minutes, so we're going to leave some for the next episode. Nevertheless, I hope you've all enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.
It was lovely having you as always, Galeran. Until we meet again.
Thank you, Tobias. As always, the House of Soren has treated me well. At least that much has never changed, even with everything going on in our world.
Sir, I have important news. One of our spies in the Haunt Dynasty have confirmed that Ryo Morgan and his band attacked and took something from Dux's former fortress in the south.
This is excellent news. Perhaps there is indeed hope for the Templars after all.